Hello everyone, this is SteamedIguana, and I gotta admit, right now is a fantastic time to be a Kaiju fan. After the Polygon Godzilla anime trilogy's mediocre reception, we have several new Godzilla and Kaiju anime coming out, like Godzilla Singular Point, Pacific Rim the Black, and the Ultraman anime is even getting a new season in the future. I remember a time when all that I heard was people talking about how they wish they had a real Kaiju anime. Not necessarily Godzilla, but something that paid homage to the good old days of men in rubber suits more than something like Attack on Titan did. The thing is though, around that time, a short animation was released by Trigger that seemed to hint at the return of an old Tsuburaya icon. Trigger later announced at Anime Expo 2017 that a new show was set to come out in October of 2018. A show that would revive a lesser-known tokusatsu hero for a new era. So, join me today as we'll be talking about the Kaiju anime I feel that everyone wanted, but forgot. SSSS Gridman. So for those of you who don't know, SSSS Gridman is a show based on the 1993 show Denko Chojin Gridman, which would later be adapted for American audiences as Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, which the anime cheekily referenced in its name. I won't go into too much detail, so don't worry about getting spoiled. It's a show that follows Yuta Hibiki, a young boy who wakes up with amnesia and meets the hyper agent Gridman, who tells him that he has a mission, but due to his amnesia, he can't remember it. Once a kaiju appears though, Yuta discovers that he can fuse with Gridman to fight it, and he and his friends have to not only unravel the mystery of his amnesia, but why the city resets after every kaiju attack, erasing the memory of those who survived, and leaving the dead forgotten. Now, this show definitely has its fans, myself included, but I still feel like it's a fairly niche show that a lot of people skipped on, and that's not their fault. Admittedly, it takes a little while for the story to really pick up, and from people who I've spoken to, it's almost a show that's quality is the inverse of a lot of other shows. It starts off a little slow, but by the end, it's one of the best damn shows I've ever seen. Aged like a fine wine, if you will. Even I, who am now absolutely obsessed with Gridman, was very iffy on the show after watching the first episode. But I stayed through and watched to the very end, and here I am now with Gridman figures being a mainstay in my display, and even more expensive junk on pre-order. God help my wallet. Of course, any anime can be good though. What makes this the kaiju anime that everyone wanted? Well, I'm so glad you asked. You can't look at that and tell me that it doesn't look like two guys in rubber suits beating the crap out of each other. The time and care that was put into making these kaiju designs look like actual rubber suits you'd see on Ultraman is astounding. Every one of them looks like they could have a dude inside, and they all have that slight stiffness from being a suit. It's a love letter to classic tokusatsu, and it's only amplified by how much more you can do in an animated setting. You eventually even meet the Neon Genesis Junior High students. Trigger didn't even try to hide that one. Who, when they're not being walking, talking Transformers references, act as upgrades to Gridman's abilities and arsenal, being one part old Ultra Show power-up, and one part modern anime power-up. For those Godzilla and Tokusatsu fans who love monster fights and designs, this show is full of them, and I feel like a lot of people tuned out before they could really get to this point. And an interesting little fact, the short animation I mentioned at the start of the episode was supposed to be a nod to the cancelled sequel series to the original Gridman, called Gridman Sigma. If that doesn't show their love and dedication to this show, I'm not sure what does. And not only does it look like an old tokusatsu show, but the story itself feels like a modernized, maybe slightly more serious take on those ridiculous premises some of the older ones have, like the original Gridman, where the show revolves around Khan Digifer, an alien wanting to take over the computer world and uses an edgy kid's computer skills to send literal monsters into appliances and destroy the conveniences humans hold dear. SSSS Gridman doesn't go that far, and I'm trying my best not to spoil it, but it definitely does carry that classic Toku charm and uses it in a way that's endearing, but not to the point that it feels ridiculous. For instance, the characters feel well fleshed out. Yuta isn't the typical strong, bullheaded protagonist, and the dynamic between his friends is one of the best parts of the show. Rika Takarada, who found him after he had gotten amnesia, and wanted to help him as well as she could despite only just now getting to know him. And Sho Utsumi, a massive fan of the Ultra series who comes up with crazy plans and forms the Gridman alliance between the three of them as he realizes he's living out one of his favorite shows. Even the villain, Akane Shinjo, is the kind of character that, by the end of the show, you can sympathize with, the kind of villain we all seem to love so much these days. I'm looking at you, Thanos. The plot, while slow at first, keeps you intrigued after the first couple episodes, and the mystery behind the Kaiju and the city being reset starts to be unraveled, and even eventually, in Trigger's good old Gainax fashion, has some philosophical Evangelion-like elements to it. For me, it's like an old tokusatsu show plot in its best form, and modernized for an audience today. However, I think one barrier that might really be holding back Godzilla and Kaiju fans from diving into something like Gridman doesn't have to do with the show at all. I feel that a lot of people avoided it purely because it was an anime. And to talk more on that, I'd like to pass this over to a good eons old friend of mine, Titangoji.
Huh? Where am I? Oh, we're talking about anime and tokusatsu? I think I know a thing or two. From my experience in both fandoms, there seems to be this sort of distaste against anime from the tokusatsu side of things, and vice versa. You can pretty much boil down the disliking and disinterest to, it's just weird, when the ironic thing is that both mediums are very similar. They both utilize flashy and exaggerated imagery when appropriate, like Sailor Moon and Super Sentai, and can be pretty down-to-earth and impactful, like Godzilla and Grave of the Fireflies. In other words, there's so much you can do with both anime and tokusatsu. One is just animated, the other is live action. Hell, there are even tokusatsu works with animated sequences, like in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and anime that use live-action sequences like the end of Evangelion. Not to mention the numerous tokusatsu works based on anime and manga properties, and anime works based on tokusatsu properties. In Gridman's case, the reactions from both fandoms are strikingly different from one another. The tokusatsu fanbase seems to admire the colorful visuals and action sequences, and the fact that Super App Productions, who we have to thank for Ultraman, had a hand in this. Oh, and the fact that it's freaking Gridman. While the anime side seems to focus on the fact that it was made by Trigger, which does have a big following in the anime community, as well as, Rika's thighs. Well, I guess there's something for everyone after all. Back to you, SteamedIguana.
Well put, man. I couldn't agree more. I'm just hoping with these larger, more well-known properties, the gap between anime and tokusatsu fans will start to thin even more. In all, I think Gridman is a fantastic show. It definitely became one of my favorites, and now I'm obsessed and I can't escape it wherever I go. I hope this video just piqued your interest even a little bit in giving it a look. I really feel like at that time when people were clamoring for a kaiju anime, we got one and it snuck right under a lot of people's noses. And it's the perfect time to do it too, because it's actually coming to Toonami in January 2021. The perfect way to catch up before the direct sequel series called SSSS Dynazenon, referencing the assist mecha from the original Gridman series, comes out in April. It looks like Trigger and Tsuburaya are making an entire universe out of this. So if you missed out before, now's the time to do it. And hey, if you did enjoy this, let me know that you're a Grid fan by hitting that subscribe and bell button down below. And if I should maybe dive into even more Gridman or other obscure kaiju goods, let me know down in the comments. And until next time, everybody, sayonara.